जैसे लाइव करवा दो। तो गुड इवनिंग, जल्दी से सब सेटल डाउन हो जाइए। वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग विद चैप्टर 7। चैप्टर 7 इज नॉट एक्चुअली इकोनॉमी टॉपिक, इट्स इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इट्स related to climate change and environment. But what economic survey of India has done, it has focused more on topics like हाइड्रोजन एनर्जी। तो एनर्जी सेक्टर थोड़ा हम इकोनॉमी में पढ़ते हैं। सिमिलरली इट हैज टॉक्ड अबाउट ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स। तो बॉन्ड्स इज समथिंग जो लोन लेने के लिए गवर्नमेंट यूजेस गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स, तो इट हैज स्पोकन अबाउट ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स। तो व्हेन इट विल स्पीक अबाउट ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स, वी विल आल्सो टॉक अबाउट द रेगुलेशंस। इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया हैज टॉक्ड कि हाउ ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स आर रेगुलेटेड, व्हाट आरबीआई डज, व्हाट सेबी डज। वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन those issues, those aspects. Now, all these topics, not the bonds wala, but otherwise all other topic we will be dealing with in more detail in our environment biodiversity classes. Hamara the last week of February and first 2 weeks of March, 3 week we will be entirely dedicating to environment, biodiversity and climate change, and we will be studying these topics in more details with a lot of questions in the classroom. But kyunki we have to finish economic survey of India, we are dealing with this chapter here also. Okay, शुरू करें। अच्छा, अभी अभी कोई आया था ना इंटरव्यू सिलेक्शन यूपी पीसीएस वाला, और भी लोग हैं। कपिल कहाँ गया? कपिल बाहर है। जिन लोगों का भी यूपी पीसीएस का इंटरव्यू है, क्लास के बाद बात करते हैं। क्लास के बीच में ना, मतलब बीच में मुझे थोड़ा सा रिवाइज करना होता है, दैट्स व्हाई आई वाज नॉट एबल टू स्पीक टू यू पीपल। क्लास के बाद बात करते हैं यूपी पीसीएस के इंटरव्यू वाला। आपको जो भी गाइडेंस चाहिए होगी, आर पास्ट स्टूडेंट्स हु हैव क्लियर्ड द एग्जाम इन रिसेंट ईयर्स, वी विल गेट यू कनेक्टेड टू देम, बिकॉज यूपी पीसीएस के बारे में मुझे पर्सनली कुछ नहीं पता। तो स्टूडेंट्स टेल मी कि सर आपके नोट से पढ़ के हुआ है ये वो, बट आई डू नॉट नो अबाउट द एग्जाम एट ऑल, so I will not be able to guide you a lot. I'll get you connected to students who have cleared this exam in the past, and they'll be able to guide you better. Okay, I've never given PCS exam, I have never looked at the paper of PCS exam, तो मुझे कुछ भी नहीं पता है उसके बारे में। मैं झूठ में बेवजह का ज्ञान देता रहूं, बेवकूफ़ बनाता रहूं, that doesn't suit me. Okay, चलिए, तो let's start with this. Climate change में first we are talking about what is happening at India's front, like to fight climate change, what are the things that we are doing. So even before Paris Agreement 2015-16 में, for those of you who do not understand Paris Agreement, who do not understand United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, who do not know what Kyoto Protocol is, please do not worry, हम हर चीज़ एकदम बेसिक से पढ़ेंगे at the time when we cover climate change for like in target pre-batch we cover environment, biodiversity and climate change. Abhi we are dealing with economic survey of India. So economic survey of India mein one scheme that is being discussed is one initiative that is being discussed is National Action Plan on Climate Change. Now this National Action Plan on Climate Change was brought in 2008. Paris Agreement वगैरह कुछ नहीं था उस टाइम, and under it there are 8 national missions. So economic survey of India through this image has briefly talked about what is happening to these missions, what are the key progress areas in these missions. So prelims में one question that you may get is the name of the mission and क्या ये national action plan on climate change के अंदर है या नहीं. दूसरा question that you may get is these missions are under which ministry, and तीसरा and more importantly what is being done, what is the subject area of these missions. Okay, so there are 8 missions. National Solar Mission. Solar Mission का you can understand by the name, it's focused on increasing the coverage of solar energy in the country. So what is the status of National Solar Mission? As of October 2022, the solar power capacity, installed solar power capacity is 61 gigawatt. Target was that by 2022 we will reach 75 gigawatts, 175 gigawatts, right? And 175 तो टोटल था रिन्यूएबल, 100 उसमें सोलर का था, राइट? 175 टोटल था, 100 सोलर का था, तो वी हैव रीच 61 गीगावाट्स. नेशनल मिशन ऑन एनहांस्ड एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी. अब देखो एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी, जैसे रिप्लेसिंग द टंगस्टन बल्ब विद एलईडी, वी आर यूजिंग इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मच मोर एफिशिएंटली. दिस एयर कंडीशनर 5 स्टार एसी, will be much more efficient than 4-star AC and 3-star AC, right? So on those aspects we focus upon. इसके अंदर we have initiatives like Ujala, where we are replacing the traditional bulbs with LEDs in households. These kind of initiatives are there. PAT cycle 7 notified in October 2021 for energy saving target of 6.63 million tons of oil equivalent. So what is this PAT cycle 7? Under PAT initiative. So again, PAT initiative भी हम बहुत detail में पढ़ेंगे. But under PAT initiative, what industries are asked कि भाई you move to a more efficient mechanism, and for that you will be provided with certain concessions, certain advantages. So उसका cycle 6 is going on. Then National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. Habitat is where you live, making it sustainable. Making it sustainable meaning you will be using more efficient energy. You will use energy more efficiently. You will move towards more renewable energy, right? So what is being done under it? Metro rail networks made operational in August 2022. Is public transport more efficient? Yes. Rather than going by a car, you should use public transport. So when we initiate things like metros, 62.79 lakh individual household toilets and 6.21 lakh community and public toilets constructed. Now, toilet construction and sustainable habitat. देखो, sustainable habitat is not only, sustainability will not only be brought by energy efficiency, right? Sanitation, those aspects also have to be taken care of. तो smart cities mission, वो सारी चीजें भी इसमें आएंगी, and thus they are giving some examples. Economic Survey of India has randomly given some examples, some कि these are the things which are being done under it. किसी दिन ना down to earth या इन सब में detailed analysis of this would come, National Action Plan on Climate Change, and there they will be able to give you much better updates on what good things have happened under it, what are the things that could not be done as effectively. Then National Mission on Green India. National Mission on Green India was focused on increasing the green cover in the country. Green cover, tree cover in the country, 66 to 6.96 crore for afforestation targets over an area of 2.1 lakh hectares has been provided. National Water Mission. National Water Mission में water use efficiency, water conservation, those are the focus areas. जल शक्ति अभियान में Catch the Rain 2022 initiative. जल शक्ति अभियान, जल शक्ति मिनिस्ट्री का एक फ्लैगशिप इनिशिएटिव है जल शक्ति अभियान. जल शक्ति अभियान में there is focus on conservation of water. So initially before COVID-19, when Jal Shakti Abhiyan 1.0 was launched, at that time it was called Jal Shakti Abhiyan only, but we are now calling it Jal Shakti Abhiyan 1.0. There was a focus on improving infrastructure in the form of ponds को करना, ponds को deepen करना, desilt करना, water storage facilities को strengthen करना, all those aspects were there. In the second phase, Catch the Rain 2022 initiative, in this time what had happened was we did not jump onto that full-fledged initiative. This was a much smaller initiative because COVID-19 lockdown and these things were going on. Here the focus was on rainwater harvesting. Catch the rain when it falls, wherever it falls and wherever it falls. Fine. Then National Mission on Strategic Knowledge for Climate Change. Look at the name of the mission. Strategic Knowledge for Climate Change. It is focused on improving research and development in the field of climate change. And for this, what has been done? Created and strengthened 12 centers of excellence for climate change. This happened in June 2020. तो मेरा वाला style हो गया. Generally, current affairs में I put this date like this, no? So created and strengthened 12 centers of excellence for climate change. This was done by June 2021. National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem. It's focused especially on protecting the Himalayan ecosystem. Under this, inter-university consortium has been created. R&D programs have been initiated. National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. Under this, key targets of FY 2022-23 covering 0.15 lakh hectares under organic farming and 10 lakh hectares under micro irrigation is being done. देखो दोनों चीजें sustainability बढ़ाएगी. Organic farming, we are not using the synthetic fertilizers which may be poisonous, harmful, and micro irrigation, water use efficiency improving, and that is making agriculture sustainable. So these are the 8 initiatives under National Action Plan on Climate Change, and Economic Survey of India is briefly telling us what are the key things which were done under it in the last financial year. अब कुछ ढूंढ लाएं, because a lot of other things have been done under National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, not under this mission, but to make agriculture sector more sustainable. But यहाँ पे it seems like assignment मिला था कि ये chapter complete करने, and people have just compiled Otherwise, this topic could have been discussed in a much better way in Economic Survey of India, which hasn't been done. There are lots of initiatives which could have been talked about rather than just listing certain things. Okay, so anyways, so when we talk about what are we doing to fight climate change, what is India doing to fight climate change, first thing that we can talk about is National Action Plan on Climate Change. Second, National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. See, with climate change, we are taking two kinds of steps: mitigation steps and adaptation steps. Mitigation mein we are fighting climate change, we are reducing climate change, we are preventing climate change from happening, we are reducing CO2 emissions so that temperature goes down. Right now, global warming is happening, temperature is going up, we are trying to reduce that. That is mitigation effort. In adaptation, we say that climate change is going to happen. Now we have to adapt to it. That is, you move away from coastal areas because sea level is going to rise. That's one form of adaptation. You build infrastructure for preventing coastal erosion. You build drought resistant crops, flood resistant crops, because with climate change, these things would worsen. These are adaptation efforts. And towards adaptation also, there's a major initiative, National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. Under this National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change, states are helped financially to implement various adaptation related initiatives. Are we understanding this? है ना, ये बात समझ में आई है? तो NFCC is implemented in project mode, and to date 30 projects have been sanctioned in 27 states and UTs with total cost of 847 crore rupees. NAFCC supports adaptation action inter alia in agriculture sector, water, forestry, livestock, etc. Right now 28 projects are under implementation. Right now 28 projects are under. So National Action Plan on Climate Change, did we understand this? National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change, second. Third are NDCs that we have given to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Now, let me briefly explain you what indices are. So, do we have clarity on United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change? UNFCC 1992 में अर्थ समिट हुआ था यूनाइटेड नेशन का. देयर 3 मेजर कन्वेंशंस वर फाइनलाइज्ड. UN Convention on Biological Diversity, UN Convention on United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and एक desertification combat करने के लिए. So this is a convention which is there for fighting climate change. Under it, पहले 1997 में Kyoto Protocol was brought. Kyoto was brought, which came into force much later in 2007. Then in 2015, we have come up with Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement में what has been done is, Paris Agreement says that the entire world needs to fight climate change. So every country will put their best foot forward. That is, every country will make their best efforts to fight climate change. And thus, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change asks all the countries, you give what is your contribution to fight climate change. That is NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution. So before Paris Agreement was signed, उससे पहले सारी कंट्रीज ने अपना, all the countries had given their NDCs. Paris Agreement says that you have to regularly update your NDCs. You have to make your steps better. You have to make your steps better. So recently, India updated its NDC. NDC that was given by India in 2015, and abhi 2022 में, in 2022, India has updated its NDC. Updated its NDC means it has submitted a new NDC with with United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, where it is saying that we will be taking these steps to fight climate change. Are we able to understand this? Are we clear about it? Okay. So what are the key points of the NDC that we have submitted with United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change? देखो, अब इसमें ना some NDCs are same as what was there in the original NDC that we had submitted in 2015, and some we have updated. So मैंने bracket में I have written which are the ones which we have updated and which are the ones which are same. So पहला, to put forward and further propagate a healthy and sustainable way of living based on traditions and values of conservation and moderation, including through a mass movement lifestyle for environment as a key to combating climate change. So under this initiative, we are saying that we will promote a way of life which is focused on conservation of resources, which prevents overuse or misuse of resources, and thus through this we will democratize fight against climate change. Everyone would be contributing in fight against climate change. So under life initiative, what India is trying to do, India not within the country and even outside the country, by making other governments accept the life initiative, what we are trying to do is we are trying to tell our citizens कि भाई your way of life should be such that you are not unnecessarily adding global warming in the environment. You switch off lights when you don't need it. We switch off your AC when you don't need it. You do not unnecessarily use refrigerators. Do not waste food. You use public transport. These are all the mechanisms by which we can reduce CO2 emissions, and these are all the things which have been targeted under life. So life was first announced by Prime Minister Modi in 2021, COP26 at Glasgow, and thus life was not part of our original NDC. It has now been made part of our NDC, nationally determined contribution. Second, to adapt a climate-friendly and cleaner path than the one followed hitherto by others at corresponding level of economic development. So, abhi we have a certain level of economic development. We are saying that we will be following a much cleaner path than what others had done. Like UK at some point of time was having the per capita income that we have today. US at some point of the time was having per capita income that we have today. The development process that they had used, it was not clean. We are saying that we will be using a much better developmental process, much more sustainable developmental process. Are we clear about this? Third, to reduce emission intensity of our GDP by 45% by 2030. Now, originally in 2015 also we had said we will reduce emission intensity of our GDP. But at that time, what was the emission intensity reduction that we had promised? तेज बोलिए थोड़ा. 30 to 33% तक हम reduce करें, 30 to 35% reduction की बात कर रहे हैं. We were saying that we will reduce emission intensity of our GDP. So let's first understand what is meant by emission intensity of GDP. Emission intensity of GDP simply means that to produce, let's say, $100 worth of output, if we are emitting 100 kg of CO2, we will reduce it by 40%. That is, by 2030, when we will produce $100 worth of output, the emission would be 40% lesser. 40% lesser means emission would only be 60 kg of CO2. So emission intensity we are reducing. We are not reducing emissions as such, क्योंकि हमारा GDP $100 की बजाय $500 हो जाएगा, and thus intensity may be higher. Emission may be higher in 2030, but our emission intensity would be smaller. Our emission intensity would be smaller. So this is another NDC that we have given to reduce emission intensity of its GDP. India will reduce emission intensity of its GDP by 45% by 2030. Originally हमने target थोड़ा कम दिया था, but the next NDC should be better than the previous NDC. We have now given much better target. Are we clear about it? Are we understanding this? Third, to achieve about 50% of cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel based. Abhi most of our energy source, our electricity comes from coal, natural gas, etc. These are fossil fuels. In the original NDC, we had said that by 2030, 40% of India's electricity would come from non-fossil sources. Non-fossil source matlab it may come from biofuel, nuclear, hydropower and other things. It will not come from fossils. So at least 40% will come from non-fossil source. Now we have said that 50% will be coming from non-fossil source by 2030. So we have also updated this NDC in 2050. In 2015 when we had submitted this NDC, we had said that we will non-fossil से हम 40% अपना लेके आएंगे energy, electricity. Now we are saying that we will bring 50% of our electricity from non-fossil sources. Are we understanding it? Are we getting it? Are we clear about this? Now, what are the other indices that we have? To create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion. This was one of the indices in 2015 and this we have kept like this. In 2015 also we had said we will create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion. Carbon sink matlab carbon storage. Now, carbon storage, if you plant tree is mostly a storage of carbon. So we said that we will be adding 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2 sink in India to better adapt to climate change, and these remain same. These provisions remain same. These have not changed. To better adapt to climate change by enhancing investment in development programs in sectors vulnerable to climate change. That is, will work towards climate adaptation. Also to mobilize domestic and new and additional funds from developed countries to implement the above mitigation, to build capacities, create domestic framework and international architecture for quick diffusion of cutting edge climate technology in India and for joint collaborative R&D for such future technology. Fine. So I hope we have clarity on what is our current NDC. This is our current NDC and what are the targets in those NDCs. I hope we understand this. We are clear about it. Pakka? Okay. So again, in climate change, there would be a class on climate change in our environment, biodiversity and climate change wala section. यहाँ पे हम फटाफट in 1.5 hours or so will complete this, but there we'll study this in more detail and we will revise it again. NDCs of India, the current NDC of India, we will revise it again. Now let's come to mission life. So mission life we have understood, I guess. Mission life we have understood. So this mission life was proposed by Prime Minister Modi in CA 2021 नहीं, COP जो 21 में हुआ था, COP 26 है ना, यूनाइटेड नेशन फ्रेमवर्क कन्वेंशन ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज का COP 26 में प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी हैड अनाउंस्ड lifestyle for environment. To fight climate change, modifying your lifestyle in such a way that it is sustainable, it is resource efficient, it does not use unnecessary amount of resource, it does not waste energy, using public transport. जो आपको समझाया था वही वाला aspect है. Status of forest and tree cover. एक in biodiversity, when we will cover forest or when we will cover plant biodiversity, there we will briefly also talk about India State of Forest Report. India State of Forest Report, which is published by Forest Survey of India biennially. It was published in 2019, then it was published in 2021, and now it will be published in 2023. December में publish होता है. This India State of Forest Report, India State of Forest Report talks about what is the tree cover in the country, what is the forest cover in the country, what is the total stock of carbon which our forest areas are storing. And Economic Survey of India says that as per ISFR, our forest cover has kept on increasing. वो तो हम वहां पे भी देखते हैं, थोड़ा थोड़ा करके we are increasing our forest cover. So coming back to the forest and tree cover in India have shown gradual and steady trend of increase in the last 1.5 decades. The country ranks third globally with respect to net gain in average annual forest area. Average annual forest area which a country is gaining, India is the third highest in the world. This gain is mainly attributed to various schemes like Green India Mission. We had talked about Green India Mission abhi, increasing green cover, compensatory afforestation initiative, national afforestation program, green highway policy. In green highway policy, besides national highway, we are planting trees. policy for enhancement of urban green, national agroforestry policy, submission of agroforestry, all these things have contributed to overall increase in the green cover in the country, which is also highlighted by various India State of Forest reports published over the last 1.5 decades. Carbon stock in India's forest and tree cover. Carbon which is being stored by forest and tree cover in India. Now see, when we talk about carbon being stored in the forest, it's not only the carbon which is stored in the tree, in the living tree. The wooden pieces which have fallen down, which are dead, they're also storing carbon. Carbon in the soil, that's also storing carbon. So, Forest Survey of India assessed the carbon stock. So, what is carbon stock? Amount of carbon sequestered from the atmosphere and stored in biomass, dead wood, soil and litter in the forest, in India's forest, for the first time in 2004 and then biennially since 2011. So, what are we saying? What is carbon stock? Did we understand this? Carbon stock, जो ये ब्रैकेट में लिखा है ना, amount of carbon sequestered from the atmosphere and stored in biomass, dead wood, soil and the litter in the forest. This is carbon stock. And Forest Survey of India अपना State of Forest report निकालता है, उसमें for the first time they had studied carbon stock in 2004 and since then and then from 2011 they have been publishing the situation of carbon stock regularly. Economic Survey of India surprisingly take data of 2019 report and not of 2021 report, and it says the India State of Forest report estimates that carbon stock of forest be about 7204 million tons in 2019 or 7.2 billion tons. Carbon stock of forest is 7.2 billion tons, which is an increase of 79 million tons of carbon stock as compared to 2017. This translates into carbon emissions sequestered through forest and tree to be 30.1 billion tons of CO2. This much of CO2 is sequestered and stored in our forest. Among the Indian states, Arunachal has the highest carbon stock, followed by Madhya Pradesh. If we look at per hectare forest carbon stock, it is highest in Jammu and Kashmir. These are certain stats which the Forest Survey of India is talking about in its 2019 report, and Economic Survey of India has also covered it. Okay. जो कार्बन स्टॉक अरुणाचल का ज्यादा है, बट फॉरेस्ट कवर किसका ज्यादा है? मध्य प्रदेश का. आई गिव दिस शॉर्ट फॉर्म मैचो मराठी. तो मध्य प्रदेश, अरुणाचल, छत्तीसगढ़, उड़ीसा एंड महाराष्ट्र. If you have to remember states in terms of their tree cover, total tree cover, not percentage. टोटल ट्री कवर, एरिया ट्री कवर के अंदर किसका ज्यादा है, फॉरेस्ट कवर के अंदर किसका ज्यादा है? तो मध्य प्रदेश, अरुणाचल, छत्तीसगढ़, उड़ीसा एंड महाराष्ट्र. ओके, ऐसे ही जब हम उसमें जाते हैं परसेंटेज वाइज ट्री कवर में, तो आई हैव मेड दिस निमोनिक, लकी मैम गॉट मनी लैंड. तो लकी मैम गॉट मनी एंड लैंड. तो इसमें क्या होता है? लक्षद्वीप परसेंटेज वाइज हैज हाईएस्ट ट्री कवर, 90%, मोर देन 90% ऑफ इट्स एरिया इज अंडर फॉरेस्ट. देन मैम में मिजोरम, अंडमान एंड निकोबार एंड मेघालय. सॉरी, मिजोरम, नहीं, मिजोरम, रुको, मिजोरम, अंडमान एंड निकोबार, अरुणाचल एंड देन ये मणिपुर नहीं, मेघालय होना चाहिए. मेघालय होगा एक पक्का. चलो ठीक है, वो होगा. तो लकी माम नहीं बनी, तो आ गए ना मनी यहाँ पे. फिर नागालैंड का लैंड, मेघालय है वहां पे. हाँ है भाई, ये 3 साल से पढ़ा रहा हूँ, गलत नहीं बता रहा मैं. ओके, एनीवेज, तो दीज आर सम ट्रिक्स दैट वी यूज टू रिमेंबर. ऐसे ना याद रखना थोड़ा सा चैलेंजिंग हो जाता है, बट एनीवेज, कमिंग बैक टू व्हाट इज द tree stock. Did you understand this, or did we understand here? Okay. So what might be the reason that non देखो, what happens is, Balbir has a good question. Shanti, Balbir is asking कि sir, why does, I'll change your question थोड़ा सा. Why does Jammu and Kashmir per hectare has more carbon stock देन अदर स्टेट, है ना। जम्मू कश्मीर का फॉरेस्ट के पास पर यूनिट एरिया में वो ज्यादा कार्बन क्यों स्टोर कर पा रहे हैं व्हेन कंपेयर टू अदर स्टेट, है ना। या फिर व्हाई डज व्हेन मध्य प्रदेश हैज मोर फॉरेस्ट कवर, व्हाई डज अरुणाचल हैज मोर कार्बन स्टॉक? दिस इज योर क्वेश्चन बलबीर. If Madhya Pradesh has more forest cover, why Arunachal has more carbon stock? Now see, understand this. Carbon stock would be depending on the quality of forest. It will be dependent on quality of forest. Now, quality of forest of Arunachal may be better, so that in its soil, the wooden pieces that have fallen down, all of those are able to store carbon more effectively when compared to Madhya Pradesh. है ना, मध्य प्रदेश में क्या पता जो पौधे गिर, जो द वुडन पीसेस व्हिच आर फॉलिंग डाउन, पीपल आर गोइंग एंड बर्निंग इट, है ना. दिस मे बी द सिनेरियो. तो इट विल डिपेंड ऑन लॉट ऑफ दोस फैक्टर्स. आई होप ये क्लियर है, समझ में आ रही है चीजें. ओके, लेट्स नाउ गो टू रिवर कंजर्वेशन एंड रिजुविनेशन. तो द इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया डील्स विथ टू मेजर इनिशिएटिव्स टू डील विथ रिवर कंजर्वेशन. एक वो बोलते हैं नमामि गंगे, विच इज द सेंट्रल सेक्टर initiative. Central sector, the entire money would be given by center only. Then there is another initiative, National River Conservation Plan. Namami Gange to is for Ganga and its tributaries, no, but cleaning of other rivers also need to happen. So we have National River Conservation Plan for other rivers. These are the two initiatives which are focused on cleaning of rivers in India, which are focused on fighting pollution in India. But other than this also, there are a number of initiatives. For example, Economic Survey of India only talks about detailed project report for rejuvenation of 13 major rivers, which has been prepared recently by Indian Council for Forestry Research and Education, Dehradun. A detailed forest report has been prepared, detailed project report has been prepared by this body for cleaning of 13 rivers, and some other details like what are the steps that they have suggested. They have talked about afforestation of river bank, fighting soil erosion, recharging groundwater, and so on to improve the quality of rivers. Then MG Narega ke andar bhi we are rejuvenating small rivers by desilting them and all. Under Amrut and Smart Cities initiative, when we are creating sewerage infrastructure, infrastructure, we are ensuring that less dirty water would be reaching rivers. So all these initiatives, though not directly talking about river rejuvenation and river pollution fighting, are contributing to fight against river pollution. Then all these schemes and all these laws etc. that we have in the country also directly or indirectly contribute to fight against river pollution. So again ये भी हम ज़्यादा डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे in pollution वाला chapter, है ना. We will study about Namami Gange in more detail. We will study about other schemes in slightly more detail in the river pollution chapter. Now, renewable energy. Initially what I wanted कि मैं इस chapter skip कर दूँ and I'll cover it in more details in pollution and वो वाला, but then I thought कि let me complete this entire series of Economic Survey of India. Else जब आप बहुत थके हुए होते हो ना, you start finding reasons for reducing your work, and once you start doing it, I would have found reason कि अरे एग्रीकल्चर इन्होंने कुछ नहीं कराया, मैं तो ज़्यादा डिटेल में कराऊंगा बाद में. I would have skipped that also, but then I decided कि नहीं, even if it's taking some time, let me finish the entire Economic Survey of India effectively, and after that I can keep doing additions in the normal current affairs program. Okay, Imtiaz is giving an answer. In Jammu and Kashmir, the forest mainly have deodar and pine trees, which has higher carbon stock capability. I'm not sure if that's true. If deodar and pine will have higher carbon stock capability than, let's say, mahua or bargad. Yeah, that may be a reason. MP's forests are deciduous in nature. Leaves सारे गिर जा. So I'm saying all these are speculations for me because I do not exactly know. Neither has Economic Survey of India exactly talked about. So all these theories which are being given by Imtiaz or by what's your name, Ayush, I'll have to verify before convincingly saying कि नहीं ऐसा ही होता है. Right? The way I was able to say कि M was Meghalaya, not Manipur. मनी तो आगे आ गया ना, राइट. चलिए लेट्स कम बैक टू ट्रांजिशन टू रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सोर्सेस. तो देखो initially in our NDC 2015 में we had given an NDC, we had said that 40% of our installed power capacity by 2030 would be from non-fossil. तो थोड़ा होना difficult हो रहा था, but now by making some changes in the way we calculate renewable energy and all, we are now saying that we have already reached that capacity. While the target was to achieve 40% of the installed electric capacity from non-fossil fuel source by 2030, in the initial NDC, the target has already been achieved. ये है अपना total installed capacity, and this line is percentage of non-fossil fuel, and we are saying that in 2021-22 only, we non-fossil fuel sources से we had more than 40% of the capacity. Non-fossil fuel had more than 40% of the capacity. So what has you can see इसमें thermal, renewable energy sources, percentage of non-fossil based capacities. Total non-fossil based capacities are there. Now इसमें large hydro, nuclear and renewable, all three are non-fossil based. Large hydro, nuclear and renewable. Please note, large hydro को we generally did not include in renewable sources of energy, but now government has changed its definition. They have also included large hydro in the renewable. Large hydro को why did we not include in renewable source? Because large hydro has a lot of negative impact on environment. So it is not something that we wanted to promote, that environmentalists wanted to promote. But now we have included even large hydro in the renewable sources of energy, and thus हम ये 40% का target already reach कर गए. So what has NDC said now? That by 2030, 50% of our installed power capacity would be from renewable sources. Now, or non-fossil sources. 50% would be from non-fossil sources. Now, एक और interesting चीज समझो. We are not saying that 40% of our electricity is coming from non-fossil sources. Installed capacity, जगो तुम सो गए, जाओ. We are not saying that 40% of our electricity is being produced from non-fossil sources. Capacity is 40%. अब capacity होना और उतना produce होना is not true. Generally, fossil fuel का capacity जितना है उससे थोड़ा percentage कम produce होगा, whereas renewable energy में the production is much lower than capacity. Renewable energy does not ever work on full capacity. Did you understand this? Okay. Now, what is the 2030 का projection? As per Central Electricity Authority, this is what we will achieve in 2030. जहां पे at least 50% क्या होना चाहिए? Non-fossil source होना चाहिए. So here you will see hydro 7.46, small hydro 0.61, PSP 1.24, coal, lignite, gas, nuclear. So coal, lignite, gas, these are fossil sources which 2030 तक we are expecting would go below even 40%. Rest would be non-fossil sources. Okay, do we understand all these things? Hydro, small hydro, PSP, coal, lignite, gas, nuclear, solar, wind, biomass. सबको सब कुछ आता है? PSP बस 2 लोगों को नहीं आता, बाकी सबको आता है? ये खांसी नहीं रुक रही है. PSP, what is PSP? Who will tell me what PSP is? Pumped storage. क्या होता है ना, आपके पास एक्स्ट्रा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी है, सब कुछ है, तो यू विल पंप वाटर टू द अपर पार्ट एंड देन दैट वाटर वुड फॉल बैक एंड जनरेट इलेक्ट्रिसिटी अगेन. तो पंप स्टोरेज पावर होता है, वो पीएसपी होता है. तो दैट्स लाइक ऐसे समझो कि यू हैव रिन्यूएबल सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी बट दैट इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज नॉट बीइंग कंज्यूम्ड. अब बंद तो उसी टाइम रही है ना, स्टोरेज का कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं है, तो व्हाट यू डू, यूजिंग दैट इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यू पंप वाटर बैक टू द डैम. In this way you have stored potential energy. In future when this water would fall back, your turbine would rotate again and you will be able to use that energy. Did you understand this? Pump storage wala? Okay. तो दिस इज आर एस्टिमेशन फॉर व्हाट 2030। करंट सिनेरियो तो बताया ना ऊपर, ये क्या था? खोए थे कहीं और तुम? नहीं, कहीं तो खोए थे। आज कौन सा दिन है? वैलेंटाइन वीक का सैटरडे है। तुम एक नाटक ना करो, झूठ झूठ, ये ना, ये ऐसे फ्रॉड लोग होते जो अपने आप को, सर मैं तो कुछ नहीं जानता। आज कौन सा दिन है? सच्ची बताओ, सच में नहीं पता? तुमने 4 लड़कियों को कम से कम कुछ दिया होगा। क्या है आज? टेडी डे है? क्या है? बारबी डे? ये तो नहीं होता यार। है? मैं भी जवान था, तुम्हारे एज का था कभी? हो गया टाइम। तू कैसी बहन है? तो मतलब भाई भाई को खुश नहीं देखना चाहती तू? खुश तो देख ही रहे हो। नहीं, मुझे नहीं पता ना। देखो मैं बताता हूँ। फर्स्ट डे इज रोज डे। फर्स्ट इज रोज। क्या तुम लोग नाटक करे, तुम्हें जैसे पता ही नहीं है? रोज। सेकेंड इज प्रपोज। देखो 14th वैलेंटाइन होता है, 13th क्या होता है? हाँ उल्टा मतलब 14th वैलेंटाइन, 13th किस डे होता है? नहीं प्रपोज, नहीं प्रपोज तो सेकेंड वाला होता है ना। पहले प्रपोज होता है फिर किस होता है? तो मुझे बताओगे तभी मैं आगे जाऊंगा। आज प्रॉमिस डे है? अच्छा आज प्रॉमिस डे है। हाँ। तो कहाँ तुम किसी को हाँ तुम्हें भी पता है नुपुर, ऐसे नहीं। तुम्हें पता है, कैसे नहीं पता? क्या क्या क्या? आज प्रॉमिस डे। तुम सच में, तुम लोगों को नहीं पता? क्या सैड लाइफ है बे। अपन तो ऐसे नहीं थे तुम्हारी एज में, अपन को तो सब पता होता था। सीरियसली। ना रिलेशनशिप में हो या ना हो। अच्छा आने के बाद नहीं होता? अच्छा। ओ तो मैं, आप बोलना चाह रहे हो मैं कभी था ही नहीं तो मुझे सारे याद थे? मैं था भाई, ऐसे नहीं, हंसो हंसो मत यार। ना अभी ये डाउट नहीं पूछा जा रहा। अभी अभी यू कंप्लीट द 7 days। गूगल करके बता। ऐसे ना यूपीएससी में सवाल पूछ लेना चाहिए। मेरे को लगा आप लोग बोलोगे कि 14 इज काउ हक डे, पर वो वापस ले लिया। है मदर्स डे तो कोई और होता है ना? अच्छा रोज नहीं होता? ठीक है ना। ले, क्लास ले रहा, अपने 14th को क्लास रखते हैं। तू बेटा दुखी है ना? तू ना झूठे झूठे वो मत ना कर। देखो सब 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 मेरी सारी बहनों को बता देता हूँ, इसके साथ मत घूमना, ये सबके साथ घूमता है। हाँ? ये जो लड़का है, इसको मौका चाहिए, ये पढ़ाई लिखाई छोड़ के घूमता हुआ इधर से उधर घूमता मिलेगा। तो तुम तो वैसे भी यू आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन एनीवन ना। दुखी क्यों हो? ठीक है ना? चलिए लेट्स कम बैक टू दिस। हाँ तो तुम कहाँ खोए थे? उसमें नहीं, तुम पहले कहाँ खोए थे? किसने तुम्हें प्रॉमिस नहीं किया? तो प्रॉमिस डे पहले होता है प्रपोज डे से? नहीं कंफ्यूज। हाँ हाँ आ जाओ। न्यूक्लियर एंड बायोमास सेमी, तो ऑर्डर पे जा रहे हैं ना बेटा, रुको शांति शांति। देखो हाइड्रो, स्मॉल हाइड्रो, पीएसपी, कोल, तो यहाँ पे न्यूक्लियर और यहाँ पे बायोमास, राइट। हो गया? चलो sir, new forest survey report will come in 2020. Yes, forest survey report will come in 2023. Let's come to hydrogen energy. So renewable energy, we have understood what economic survey of India has talked about. We have dealt with that. है ना? Renewable energy will study in more detail. Economic survey of India में थोड़ा सा दिया हुआ है. In climate change chapter, we will study it in more detail. Okay. Abhi we are trying to cover economic survey. Now let's come to hydrogen energy. Before we go to National Green Hydrogen Mission, let us first briefly understand हाइड्रोजन एनर्जी का यूज एप्लीकेशन कैसे होता है. देखो, वन इज यू बर्न हाइड्रोजन विथ ऑक्सीजन, H2O would be produced, but that is no. With using that heat, you will heat the water and steam will be produced and turbine blade would be rotated. It wastes a lot of energy. So generally when we use hydrogen fuel, we use fuel cells. Fuel cells will directly convert hydrogen into electricity, energy stored in hydrogen into electricity. Fine. So here we are talking about advantages of hydrogen fuel. What are the advantages of hydrogen fuel? So पहले ना let's first talk. Let me first talk about fuel cell. देखो, one way of producing energy is you burn H2 with oxygen. H2O would be produced and plus heat would be produced. This heat will be used for warming the water. Water will convert into steam. Steam will go and rotate the turbine. This is what was happening even in nuclear energy. We were producing heat. Heat was going. Heat was being transferred to a steam generator, which was going and rotating the turbine. Right? This was happening there. तो यहाँ पे भी एक चीज ये कर सकते हैं. दूसरा, in fuel cell, what we do is in fuel cell we supply hydrogen, and this hydrogen in the fuel cell using various electrolytes, cathode, anode, and all, converts into water while electrons are produced, electrons travels through the circuit and electricity is generated. So यहाँ पे hydrogen will not first be converted into this energy will not first be converted into heat, which will then convert into kinetic energy of the steam and which will then produce electricity. Here directly electricity would be produced from fuel cell. So fuel cell is a topic of science जो इस बार हम थर्सडे को पढ़ेंगे. अच्छा, आप लोग पूछते रहते ना RTFQ, थर्सडे फ्राइडे सैटरडे संडे RTFQ ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी पूरा कर लेंगे हम चारों दिन. 125 125 125 125 क्वेश्चन. इट्स गोइंग टू टेक 1.5 to 2 hours वो, एंड इन द रिमेनिंग 2.5 hours जो हमारे पास रहेंगे विल कीप अपडेटिंग साइंस एंड टेक. साइंस टेक में जो भी हमें और पढ़ना है विल कीप स्टडिंग दैट, एंड इन द फर्स्ट हाफ वी विल डू RTFQ. फाइन. थर्सडे फ्राइडे सैटरडे संडे, और संडे को आपका टेस्ट भी है ऑफ एंटायर साइंस एंड टेक. फाइन. तो दिस वीक जो अब वीक आ रहा होगा उसके बाद साइंस एंड टेक वी विल नॉट डू एनीथिंग इन साइंस टेक. विल आफ्टर दैट वी मे हैव सम अपडेट्स ऑन इकोनॉमी, बट आवर प्राइमरी फोकस विल शिफ्ट ऑन एनवायरमेंट. बजट तो इसी वीक होगा, अभी चल रहा है ना कंटिन्यूएशन में. मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ मंडे ट्यूसडे वेंसडे भी मुझे क्लासेस मिले, और अभी ये कंटिन्यू जब तक इकोनॉमी चल रही है. इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया बजट वैसे होगा. ओके, तो दिस थर्सडे फ्राइडे सैटरडे संडे यू हैव RTFQ. लेट्स कम बैक टू दिस. हाँ, तो वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल. डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड? जो ये हाइड्रोजन को डायरेक्टली इलेक्ट्रिसिटी में कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं, हाइड्रोजन में स्टोर्ड केमिकल एनर्जी इज कन्वर्टेड इनटू इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. इट इज डन बाय हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल सेल्स. So we will study hydrogen fuel cells in more detail with its cathodes and anodes and all those things. So advantages of using hydrogen fuel. Why do we want to use hydrogen fuel? First is abundance. Hydrogen is the most common gas in the universe, है ना? Remember हमने we have studied sun and sun का life cycle. Hydrogen is there, most of it. First. Second, energy density of hydrogen is high. If you store hydrogen in liquid form, तो liquid form में आप किसी और fuel को store करोगे, generally hydrogen will be able to have much more energy per kg of hydrogen fuel. It will be able to have much more energy. Can contribute in achieving net zero by 2050. जल्दी से net zero achieve करना है, hydrogen fuel can play a very important role. No pollution. When hydrogen converts into water, energy is produced. But water though is not a pollutant for us, is not a problem. Leading option for storing energy from renewable. Now what is this? See, renewable energy. Renewable energy. Sunlight, wind energy. It is variable. It is available at some time, it is not available at other time. In that situation, what do we need to do? We need to store renewable energy. We need to store renewable energy. अब स्टोरिंग के लिए यू मे यूज बैटरीज, lithium ion batteries and all, है ना? So but that those things are expensive. So what is being planned, what is being said is hydrogen can be a source of storage. Now how hydrogen can be a source of storage? They're saying that when extra renewable energy is available, use that energy to convert H2O into hydrogen. एनर्जी देना पड़ेगा ना आपको. जब hydrogen is converting into H2O, hydrogen is oxidizing into H2O, it is producing energy. So if you give it energy, then water can be broken into hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen has stored energy in this way. So here you do not have to depend on lithium ion batteries. So here we are saying that leading option for storing energy from renewable, hydrogen can become a leading option for storing energy from renewable. Did we understand this? Are we clear about it? Okay. Advantages of hydrogen vehicle fuel cell stack over electric vehicles. Now, see, electric vehicles are becoming very common. Electric vehicles have batteries which are charged by electricity. Some experts say that hydrogen fuel based vehicles would be better than electric vehicles. In hydrogen fuel, what will you have? You will have hydrogen gas. This hydrogen gas in fuel cell will produce electricity and उससे आपकी कार चलेगी. Electricity is something that you need. Electric vehicle में battery is providing that electricity. Electric vehicle में battery is providing that electricity which was getting charged. In hydrogen fuel cell, hydrogen will provide that electricity. Hydrogen will be supplied to fuel cell, electricity would be generated. So here we are trying to make a comparison between hydrogen fuel based vehicle and electric vehicle, or let's say battery, lithium ion battery based car. एक हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल बेस्ड कार और एक लिथियम आयन बैटरी बेस्ड कार. तो व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल बेस्ड कार व्हेन कंपेयर्ड टू लिथियम आयन बैटरी बेस्ड कार? लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड दिस. फर्स्ट, अ फ्यूल सेल इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल कैन बी रिफ्यूल्ड इन जस्ट 5 मिनट्स. यहाँ तो गैस भरना है ना, वेयरएज रिचार्जिंग इज टेकिंग टाइम. जब आपको बैटरी चार्ज करनी होती है, समटाइम्स इट्स टेकिंग हाफ एन आवर. तो दिस कैन रिड्यूस दैट प्रॉब्लम, रिमूव दैट प्रॉब्लम वेयर कार्स हैव टू वेट फॉर अ लॉन्ग ड्यूरेशन टू गेट रिचार्ज. राइट, रास्ते में चलते हुए आपकी बैटरी डिस्चार्ज हो गई. इन इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल यू विल बी इन अ बिग ट्रबल, है ना. एंड even if you find recharge place, it's going to take half an hour, something like that. Second, energy storage per unit volume and weight is also higher in fuel cell. अब बैटरी में जितना एनर्जी स्टोर करके रखा है ना आपने, वेट और वॉल्यूम में, उतने वेट एंड वॉल्यूम में यू विल बी एबल टू स्टोर मोर हाइड्रोजन, और हाइड्रोजन विल बी एबल टू स्टोर मोर एनर्जी. Are we getting this? Third, EV battery material are controlled by a few large players. आज हम today we will study about various critical minerals which are used in electric vehicles. They are controlled by some major countries, like China has a lot of say in the world's lithium resources, whereas hydrogen fuel cell may bring countries at equal footing. That's another advantage of moving to hydrogen. Then EV batteries have still not been found viable for heavy vehicles like trucks. आपको इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल स्कूटर्स आ गए, कार्स आ गए, बट यू मस्ट नॉट हैव सीन इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल ट्रक्स which would not be the limitation with hydrogen fuel. तेज बोलो, क्या बोल रहे हो? तो हाथ उठा के बोलना था ना. अब उठाओ हाथ उठाओ, दोनों उठाओ, दूसरा भी उठाओ, उठाओ. हाँ, पूरा ऐसे पूरा ऊपर करो और ऊपर. क्या इतनी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है पूरा. हाँ, वैसे ही रखो 1 मिनट. अरे तो क्लास में से बिना बीच में बोलोगे तो सही थोड़ी. उठाओ. अरे उठाओ अच्छे से ऊपर, ऐसे ही रहना 1 मिनट तक. देख रहा हूँ मैं अभी 6 15 हुए हैं, 6 16 हुए, 6 17 तक, ठीक है। मैं बताऊंगा कब नीचे करना है। डिड वी अंडरस्टैंड दीज प्रॉब्लम्स? ओके, अरे तुम्हें भी करवा दूंगा, बीच में बोलना नहीं है, हाथ उठा के बोलना है, उस अभी अब वो नहीं करेगा ऐसा आगे। तो डिड वी अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द एडवांटेज ऑफ यूजिंग हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल बेस्ड सिस्टम? नाउ टू ब्रिंग इन टू, देखो अब इफ यू हैव टू यूज हाइड्रोजन बेस्ड व्हीकल्स, you'll first have to bring rules regulations related to it. It has to be allowed, है ना? तो to support regulatory framework, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways in 2020 have issued a notification proposing amendment to the Central Motor Vehicle Rules 1989 to include safety evaluation standards for hydrogen fuel cell based vehicles. ये तुम स्कूल के बच्चों की तरह ऐसे जोड़ लेते हो पूरा सीधा, तो क्या हुआ? और जिम भी करते हो, तब तो तुम उल्टे, जिम करते हो तुम्हें तो और दर्द नहीं होना चाहिए। उठा 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 उठा, तुम्हें वैलेंटाइंस वीक के दिन नहीं पता, तुम जिम में जा रहे हो। क्या हो गया है इस जनरेशन को? प्यार मोहब्बत नहीं तुम्हें। सम लिमिटेशंस ऑफ हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल, सम लिमिटेशंस ऑफ हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल। द प्रॉब्लम, देखो प्रॉब्लम में पहला है कि हाइड्रोजन, वी आर सेइंग कि इट्स मोस्ट अबंडेंट गैस, बट ऐसे एटमॉस्फेयर में अवेलेबल नहीं है। यू विल हैव टू जनरेट हाइड्रोजन H2O को मीथेन से और सम अदर, एंड दैट टेक्स एनर्जी, that will take energy. That's why renewable energy, when you have extra renewable energy, using that you will generate hydrogen, because hydrogen atmosphere में as such तैर नहीं रहा कि लेके आपने भर लिया सिलेंडर, like nitrogen or any other gas. Okay. Second, thus external energy source is required. This is one problem. Second, hydrogen technology is yet to be scaled up. In fact, someone like Elon Musk has said that the fuel cell technology is mind-bogglingly stupid. They do not want to go the hydrogen fuel cell mechanism. They're saying कि electric vehicle will be the future. Hydrogen fuel based vehicles may not serve any purpose. Nitin Gadkari ji is saying कि नहीं, hydrogen fuel may play a very important role in future. But some other experts may have different opinion. Then lack of fueling station infrastructure. Right now, hydrogen fuel based infrastructure all over the world, there are around 500 something hydrogen fuel refilling stations, and they are mostly situated in Europe. India में hardly वो है, और बिना refueling stations के hydrogen fuel based system लाना challenging रहेगा. And then safety is also a concern. Hydrogen, देखो hydrogen you'll have to keep it in a very, if you have to keep hydrogen in cylinder to be used in vehicle, hydrogen को liquid में रखने के लिए सिलेंडर में रखोगे, इट विल बी इन हाईली प्रेशराइज्ड फॉर्म और लिक्विड फॉर्म, यू विल हैव टू कीप इट एट वेरी लो टेम्परेचर। क्रायोजेनिक इंजन याद है ना? तो हाइड्रोजन इज प्रेशराइज्ड एंड स्टोर्ड इन क्रायोजेनिक इंजन। सम कंपनीज लाइक टोयोटा एंड हुंडई हैव सेड दैट द सेफ्टी एंड रिलायबिलिटी ऑफ हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल टैंक इज सिमिलर टू दैट ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड सीएनजी इंजन, बट अदर्स से दैट इट मे बी अ कॉज ऑफ कंसर्न, इट मे बी अ लिमिटेशन, इट मे बी अ प्रॉब्लम। दीज आर सम ऑफ द इश्यूज विथ हाइड्रोजन। बट चलिए ये हो गया, नाउ विल गो टू अच्छा various types of hydrogen. Let's briefly also talk about various types of hydrogen. Gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen, green hydrogen. What are these gray, blue, green? So gray hydrogen is bad and green is good. So bad hydrogen, suppose you are generating hydrogen by using fossil fuels, so you are anyways emitting so much CO2. That is bad hydrogen, that is gray hydrogen. Hydrogen produced from fossil fuels, this constitute a bulk of hydrogen produced today. Then blue hydrogen, hydrogen generated from fossil fuels with carbon capture and storage option. So hydrogen was generated using fossil fuels, but fossil fuels से जो CO2 emit हुआ, you captured that CO2, you sequestered that CO2. So it is also bad, but you reduced its bad impact. And then there is green hydrogen, hydrogen generated entirely from renewable power sources. यहाँ पे carbon footprint would be much less. Now let's talk about National Green Hydrogen Mission. India has launched a mission for green hydrogen. हाँ, देखो we may not always use electrolysis of water. Methane can be a source of hydrogen. There could be other sources of hydrogen also, but electrolysis of water is the common method. Okay. So there are doubts नहीं क्या है? इंडियाना सर्विस प्रेप इज आस्किंग आरटीएफक्यू करंट वाले बैच के लिए नहीं है क्या? करंट वाले के बैच के लिए तो भाई आरटीएफक्यू इज फॉर करंट अफेयर्स बैच ओनली, है ना? करंट अफेयर्स बैच में हमने साइंस, क्योंकि वी हैव कंप्लीटेड एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी आर स्टार्टिंग विद साइंस का आरटीएफक्यू थर्सडे फ्राइडे सैटरडे संडे विल बी डूइंग दैट. Sir, huge lithium reserves have been found in Riyasi district of Jammu and Kashmir recently, which brought India at the second number after South America lithium triangles. ठीक है, पता है क्या है ये ना, जब तक रिजर्व्स ऐसे प्रॉपरली डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं हो जाते, हम उस पर प्रॉपरली रिसर्च पेपर्स पब्लिश नहीं कर देते, दीज आर जस्ट नो, ऐसे न्यूज आता रहता है कि झारखंड में इतना यूरेनियम मिल गया एंड यहाँ पे इतना गोल्ड मिल गया, राइट? तो पोटेंशियल रिजर्व एंड यूजेबल रिजर्व आर डिफरेंट थिंग्स. तो वो जब तक हमें प्रॉपरली इंटरनेशनल पब्लिशर्स डॉक्यूमेंट्स में वो चीजें नहीं आने लगेंगी, वी वुड परहैप्स नॉट गो फॉर दैट. करंट अफेयर्स टारगेट के लिए भी है ना? हाँ, यस यस, आरटीएफक्यू इज फॉर टारगेट प्री करंट अफेयर्स सबके लिए, पीएमपी सबके लिए. नेट जीरो मीन्स कार्बन न्यूट्रल, यस, नेट जीरो मीन्स ओवरऑल एमिशंस बिकॉज ऑफ यू वुड बी जीरो. आप जितना एमिशन कर रहे हो उतना अब्सॉर्ब भी कर ले रहे हो, तो ओवरऑल एमिशंस आर जीरो. नाउ लेट्स कम टू नेशनल ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन. नाउ जो अभी तक हमने हाइड्रोजन के बारे में पढ़ा ना, दैट वाज नॉट गिवन इन इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया, बट आई वांटेड टू कवर इट सो दैट when we directly jump onto green hydrogen mission, you will understand ki what is green hydrogen. One, you understand this. Second, why green hydrogen mission and not hydrogen mission? Because other kinds of hydrogen is not something which is environment friendly, and that's why national green hydrogen mission. So with a vision to make India energy independent nation, not dependent on fossil fuels and all those things, government in January 2023 have approved green hydrogen mission with a outlay of 19,000 crore rupees. So government has given 19,000 crore rupees for this mission, for green hydrogen mission, and with this what are they trying to achieve? They're trying to first create demand. green hydrogen का demand हो तो उसके लिए a lot of hydrogen based vehicles and all those things would be developed, or its development would be promoted. First, production, green hydrogen production should go up, utilization should go up, export of green hydrogen is also something that is being looked up, and mobilization of more investment. See, government is investing 18,000 crore rupees, but with this it would want more private players, more foreign investment to happen in the field of green hydrogen, and it is targeted that 8 lakh crore rupees of investment in the green hydrogen sector would happen by 2030. So what are the salient features of the national green hydrogen mission? What are the key things that the national green hydrogen mission wants to achieve? So पहले, what is the target outcomes by 2030? What are the likely outcomes by 2030 that they are looking for? First, green hydrogen production capacity of at least 5 million tons per annum. By 2030, our green hydrogen production should be at least 5 million tons per annum. Second, cumulative reduction in fossil fuel imports over 1 lakh crore and creation of over 6 lakh jobs. This is another outcome. If we'll start producing hydrogen, hydrogen will be used as fuel. So reduction of fossil fuel, and because hydrogen will be used as fuel, hydrogen industry would develop in India, a lot of jobs would be created. Renewable energy capacity addition of about 125 gigawatt. Hydrogen is helping renewable energy. When extra renewable energy is available, you are able to convert water into hydrogen and store that. So with the help of this, renewable energy capacity would also be increased in the country, and abatement of nearly 50 million metric tons of annual GHG emission, that is, will reduce greenhouse gas emission by 50 metric million tons. ये बात समझ में आई? Okay. So these are the likely outcomes. So primary target क्या है? 5 million tons of green hydrogen would be produced by 2030 annually. By 2030 annually, we should start producing 5 million tons, 5 million metric tons of hydrogen. अब अगर वो प्रोड्यूस होगा तो अपने आप CO2 emission होगा, फ्यूल डिपेंडेंसी रिड्यूस होगी, जॉब्स क्रिएट होंगे, ऑल दोस थिंग्स आर कोरोलरी टू इट और रिपरकशंस ऑफ दैट. तो फाइन, व्हाट इज द टारगेट, ये सबको क्लियर है? प्रीलिम्स में प्राइमरली क्वेश्चन वुड बी आस्क्ड ऑन, अगर इफ दे आस्क अ क्वेश्चन ऑन data or fact, it would be on this 5 million tons. Got it? First. Second, interventions. What are we planning to do in the green hydrogen mission? हम करेंगे क्या क्या? So again, financial incentive targeting domestic manufacturing of electrolyzers and production of green hydrogen. So we would give incentives to businesses which manufacture electrolyzers. Electrolyzers क्या होता है? जो electrolysis process होता है ना, जहाँ पे water is broken into hydrogen and oxygen. So that machine is electrolyzer. So if we want to produce more green hydrogen in the country, we would want more electrolyzers to be there in the country. So we will incentivize. Government will give subsidies, government will give tax benefits to companies which are developing more electrolyzers in India. Then regions capable of supporting large scale production and or utilization of hydrogen to be developed as green hydrogen hubs. Government also plans to develop green hydrogen hubs. These green hydrogen hubs would be either producing a lot of hydrogen or would be using a lot of hydrogen as fuel, green hydrogen as fuel. Then policy framework. Policy framework. Development of an enabling policy framework to support establishment of green hydrogen ecosystem, robust standard and regulation framework, public-private partnership framework for R&D, skill development program, etc. in the field of hydrogen sector. Fine, these are the broad things in national green hydrogen policy. And the देखो mains में हम बस इतना ही कर पाते हैं. Mains में you will be able to write only this much, not more than this. है ना? Prelims में we will look at some more detail, but again, Economic Survey of India में इतना ही दिया है. For now, we are only doing this one. Now, what is electrolyzer? So this is electrolyzer. See what it is doing. It is taking hydrogen, है ना? Anode, cathode. यहाँ पे O2 बनेगा, यहाँ पे hydrogen बनेगा. यहाँ it's taking water, O2, hydrogen, and cathode anode पे. This is what electrolyzer is doing. So electrolyzers are critical technology for the production of low emission hydrogen from renewable or nuclear electricity. Electrolysis is the process of using electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. This reaction takes place in a unit called electrolyzer. What is Niti Aayog saying on green hydrogen? नीति आयोग ने एक डॉक्यूमेंट रिलीज किया था अभी जून 2022 में, हार्नेसिंग ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर डीप डीकार्बनाइजेशन इन इंडिया. Harnessing green hydrogen opportunity for deep decarbonization, decarbonizing our economy. For that, H2O would be hydrogen energy would be crucial. It says that electrolyzer costs are expected to fall in future. Agar electrolyzer cost would fall, hydrogen production would become cheaper, and renewable tariff are already falling. Do we need renewable energy for producing hydrogen? Yes, we need an energy source. तभी तो water will break into hydrogen and oxygen, है ना? So renewable energy sources are already falling. Niti Aayog is also saying that, renewable energy costs are already falling, and Niti Aayog is also saying that electrolyzers would become cheap, and thus production of hydrogen would become affordable in future. Production of hydrogen would become affordable. It also says that cumulative value of green hydrogen market in India will be $8 billion by 2030 and $340 billion by 2050. Similarly, electrolyzer will also have huge market in India by 2030 and 2050. Further adoption of green hydrogen will also result in 3 gigatons of cumulative CO2 emission reduction. All this, this will also generate enormous import saving, ensure stability in industry, input prices, all other advantages it is talking about. And thus, as per Niti Aayog also, hydrogen has a future in India, a good future in India. But all this is based on assumption that some critical minerals which are needed for renewable energy is available at reasonable cost. Because these critical minerals are for now controlled by a few countries, and tomorrow we may face problems. So let us talk about these critical minerals. So please note, all the critical minerals are not rare earth minerals. Rare earth in pre-com mains batch, have we studied rare earth minerals? So rare earth metals, critical metals include rare earth metals plus some other metals also. So what are critical metals? Cobalt, copper, lithium, nickel, and rare earth elements. are critical for producing electric vehicles and batteries and harnessing solar power and wind energy. And so for this sector, what are critical metals? These are the critical minerals. These are the critical minerals. So rare earth elements तो हैं ही, है ना? Some of you may not know what rare earth elements. ऐसा है क्या? Please, शुभम तुम तो प्रीकम मेंस बैच में हो. लेट ज्वाइन किया, कब ज्वाइन किया? नवंबर में ज्वाइन किया. अच्छा. बाकी everyone knows what rare earth elements are because I have already covered it in a lot of details. प्री वाले बैच में भी मैं इसे कवर करूंगा, बट वो ना ज्योग्राफी या रिसोर्सेस वाले सेक्शन में, नॉट हेयर, नॉट इन इकोनॉमिक, बिकॉज जितना इन्होंने डिस्कस किया इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया, आई एम ओनली डिस्कसिंग दैट. तो रेयर अर्थ एलिमेंट्स आर, let me briefly give a brief about rare earth elements. There are some elements in our periodic table whose mining is very difficult. They are available in abundance, even in our crust it is available in abundance, but when we mine them, no, they are distributed so much that for mining them a large area gets negatively affected. And that is why only a few countries, for example China in 1980s and 1990s, environmental laws there were very weak. They became a world leader in rare earth metal production. But then in 2010-11, it imposed some restriction on its exports and the entire world was affected. At that time, the world realized that depending on a single country may be problematic, especially with increased geopolitical tensions between China and other Western countries. India also realized this problem. So what was the focus? Focus was on we shift to, or we reduce our dependency on China. So since then, at that time, China had more than 90% of the rare metal production. Since then, the share of China has reduced. Other countries have also started producing rare earth elements. But here, we are not going to talk about only rare earth. When we talk about critical minerals, rare earth elements or rare earth metals are those 14 critical elements which are there. But other than that, even cobalt, copper, lithium, nickel, these are important. These minerals play a very important role in development of batteries, play a very important role in photovoltaic cells or wind turbines, and thus they are also crucial for renewable energy to function properly. They are also crucial for renewable energy to function properly. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप देखेंगे यहाँ पे कहीं लिखा होगा, हाँ, the types of mineral resources used by various technology, lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese and graphite are used in battery performance, longevity and energy density. REEs, rare earth elements, are essential for permanent magnets that are vital for wind turbines and EV motors. Electricity network need a huge amount of copper and aluminium. Electricity network would need copper and aluminium, right? So therefore these metals are crucial. But global supply chain आप देखिए इन metals का, copper, lithium, nickel, cobalt and rare earth elements. See, rare earth elements. Even now, China has a lot of say. Its role is reducing. In 2011, तो 90% production China का था. अब it has gone to around 70% and it's going to go down. But still, it has a lot of it. China has it, US has it, Australia has it, Myanmar has it. Others have very small percentage of production of rare earth elements. Look for cobalt. Democratic Republic of Congo, nickel, Indonesia, Philippines, Russia, Canada, others. Lithium, Australia, Chile, China. Copper, again. So a few countries dominate these resources, and that's why Economic Survey of India is saying कि yes, आपका hydrogen सस्ता हो जाएगा and renewable energy would be cheaper and electrolyzer would be developed, but all that depends on these critical minerals. And thus, we need to craft multi-dimensional mineral policy to reduce our dependence and address the problems in future. India has resources of nickel, cobalt, molybdenum and heavy REs, but further exploration would be needed to evaluate these quantities. There's a need to create strategic mineral reserves along the lines of strategic petroleum reserves to ensure a continuous supply of minerals. Also, policies should consider investing in internal research including technological innovation for mineral exploration and processing and development of recycling, reusing, repurposing technologies, so that when we use those resources, we can continue reusing it and our dependency on import, etc., is much lesser. These are various steps that we need to take. These are way forward. Certain things we have done. For example, we have started an initiative, joint venture called काबिल और खनिज विदेश इंडिया लिमिटेड. अब काबिल बनाने के लिए देखो विदेश को हमने विदेश कर दिया. हाँ है ना. अब मोदी जी बोल सकते हैं कि अरे नहीं, आई हैड हायर्ड अ बंगाली फॉर दिस और अ बिहारी फॉर दिस. वो विदेश बोल रहा था. बट काबिल इनिशिएटिव किससे रिलेटेड है? क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स से. व्हाट इज दिस? In order to ensure mineral security of the nation and to attain self-reliance in the area of critical and strategic mineral, the Ministry of Mines has created a joint venture, namely Khanij Videsh India Limited, with participating interest of NALCO, HCL and MECL. Kabil is mandated to identify and acquire overseas mineral assets of critical and strategic importance such as lithium, cobalt, etc. China is identifying and getting strategic control over various important mineral reserves all over the world. Kabil has been formed for that purpose. It will contribute to that aspect. इंडिया में एक्सप्लोरेशन फोकस नहीं है. फोकस क्या है? वर्ल्ड में, आउटसाइड इंडिया, you identify the strategic mineral reserves and then through an MOU, through an agreement with that country, ensure that India would have a continuous supply from there. You are asking something? Further, the Ministry of Mines. So the Kabil is one initiative. Then Ministry of Mines, Government of India, and Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resource, Government of Australia. So Government of India and Government of Australia have signed an MOU in 2020 for cooperation in the field of mining and processing of critical and strategic minerals. Kabil has also signed a detailed MOU with collaborative framework with the Critical Mineral Facility Office under DISCR on March 10, 2022 to identify lithium and cobalt mineral assets for final joint investment decision and acquisition of assets in Australia catering to the critical and strategic ecosystems of the country. So certain things are being done. ऐसे rare earth elements, if you remember when we had studied rare earth elements, we had said that India also has a lot of reserves of rare earth elements. It's just we need to develop mechanism to extract them in an efficient manner, and for that certain activities have been started. Got it? Are we clear about this? No? नो. यस पक्का यस ही बोले हो ना. नो बोल रहा था ना. यस बोला. ये लॉन्ग टर्म लो एमिशन डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी. लॉन्ग टर्म लो एमिशन डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी. देखो, लॉन्ग टर्म लो एमिशन डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी इंडिया ने अभी ये सबमिट किया है टू COP27. COP27 was held at Sharm el Sheikh, 26 was held at Glasgow in 2021, 27 was held in 2022 at Sharm el Sheikh, right? वहां पे to UNFCCC we have submitted long term emission development strategy, long term low emission development strategy. In long term, what is our development strategy? उसमें emission we are trying to reduce, but we what are the key aspects? One, focus on the rational utilization of national resource with due regard to energy security. The transition from fossil fuel will be undertaken in just, smooth, sustainable and all inclusive manner. Here we are trying to say, we have not said ki will move away from fossil to renewable altogether. We are saying that it will happen in just, sustainable and all inclusive manner. ऐसा नहीं हो कि when we are moving from fossil to renewable, we will let our economy suffer, or we will let some of the section or some of the industries suffer. That's not going to happen. Second, encompasses the objectives of national hydrogen policy. The rapid expansion of green hydrogen production, increasing electrolyzer manufacturing capacity in the country, and a threefold increase in nuclear capacity by 2032 are some of the other milestones that are envisaged alongside the overall development of the power sector. So in our long-term low emission development strategy, we are saying that hydrogen, nuclear energy, etc. are going to play a very important role. Then use of biofuels के बारे में भी बात हो रही है. Biofuels use would increase. India has already set a target that ethanol blending will reach 20% by the ethanol supply year 2025-26. Then urban development would be focused on adaptation, enhancing energy and resource efficiency, so that our urban development would be sustainable. And finally, India's industrial sector will continue on a strong growth path with the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. So in our development strategy, these are the broad areas that have been submitted to the UNFCCC as our long-term low emission development strategy. Now, finance for sustainable development. Finance for sustainable development. Let's understand. See, under Paris Agreement, all the countries in the world have been asked कि you put your best foot forward. आप जो best steps ले सकते हो, आप करिए. All the countries have done so. All the countries have been asked to do so. But at the same time, it has been said that developed countries would provide funds and technology to developing countries to help them fight climate change. That operationalization or that mobilization of resources has been very slow. But we cannot keep on waiting for them to provide us resources and then we'll start fighting climate change. India has already started taking measures to mobilize more resources to fight climate change. We have started going the green bond mechanism. Now, green bonds, जैसे गवर्नमेंट जब बॉन्ड इशू करता है तो बेसिकली गवर्नमेंट इज बोरोइंग मनी ऑन इंटरेस्ट, है ना. बॉन्ड का जो डिस्काउंट रेट होगा दैट विल बी द इंटरेस्ट रेट दैट गवर्नमेंट विल हैव टू पे. तो ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स आर द बॉन्ड्स व्हिच आर इशूड टू बोरो मनी व्हिच विल बी गोइंग इन green sectors. For example, renewable energy sector. Tomorrow, if government wants to invest a lot of money in renewable energy sector, government will be able to issue green bonds. Now, देखो, understand this. You will say, sir, then what is the purpose of naming it green bond? Why not just government bond? Government is borrowing money and then it may use it for whatever it wants. Now, green bonds में there would be a restriction that this money will only be used for energy, sorry, not energy, the green projects, जो environmentally sustainable projects हो, जो which will help us fight climate change, which will help us fight pollution and so on. And already this is being done by countries like United Kingdom, France. They have mobilized billions of dollars. Private sector is also doing it. India में green bonds have been issued by private sector. SEBI's data between 2017 and September 2022 shows that 15 Indian corporates have issued green bonds of value of rupees 4,539 crores. Most of this is related to renewable energy generation. तो borrow करते हैं, पैसे borrow करते हैं, जैसे अदानी जी may want कि he may issue some bonds and borrow money from the market. That is, जैसे government borrow करती है through bonds, corporate sector also borrows money through bonds. So green bonds have also been issued in India, but of around 4,000 crore rupees in last 4-5 years. In the budget 2022-23, India announced the issuance of sovereign green bonds. Sovereign मतलब government के green. The final sovereign green bonds framework has also been issued in this financial year only. Sovereign green bond framework, how the green bond would function and all. Green Financing Working Committee has been set up. This Green Financing Working Committee will oversee and validate key decisions with respect to issuance of sovereign green bond. Clear? Thank you. आपको याद था? रोज याद नहीं रहता है ना? कल आप नहीं आए थे, कल मैं भी नहीं आया था. थैंक यू. नहीं, बीच में गरम गरम पानी मिलता रहता ना, लाइफ सेट रहती है. हाँ, तो ग्रीन फाइनेंसिंग वर्किंग कमेटी हैज आल्सो बीन सेट अप. व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ ग्रीन फाइनेंसिंग वर्किंग कमेटी? क्या हुआ दिनेश? एसी ऑन करना है. हाँ, एक तो गेट भी खोल दो यार, तुम गेट बंद मत करे करो मेरी क्लास के. सफोकेशन रहेगा ना. हाँ, एसी भी चला दो. रिमोट नहीं है? सब अपने अपने बैग में रखते हो क्या रिमोट? किस किसके बैग से कहाँ से निकल रहे हैं? दिनेश, आपके पास होने चाहिए ना रिमोट वगैरह. उठा ले जाते हैं सब. कहाँ से निकाला तुमने रिमोट? तुम्हारे घर में एसी कौन सा है ये बताओ पहले। नहीं है? अच्छा, है इसके पास हिताची वाला ही, वो रिमोट लेके रखा है। जब वो खराब होगा तो ये यूज करूंगा। ग्रीन फाइनेंसिंग वर्किंग कमिटी। So green financing working committee has been set up. It will do what? It will validate key decisions on the issuance of green bonds, sovereign green bonds. It will also mandate, it also has the mandate to select the projects for allocation of proceeds. When the bond से पैसा आ रहा है तो किन projects को पैसा जाएगा? It will be also decided by Green Financing Working Committee or GFWC. It will, there are some other functions. For example, it will carry out annual reporting along with an impact assessment of the proceeds. RBI has also notified indicative calendar कि कब कब गवर्नमेंट अपने बॉन्ड इशू, गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड इशू करेगी आरबीआई के थ्रू ही करेगी, है ना। तो 25 जनवरी 2023 एंड 9 फरवरी 2023 वर द डेट सेट। तो एक तो परसों ही हुआ और एक 25 जनवरी। व्हाट वर दी टारगेट्स? तो सिक्योरिटी वाइज एलोकेशन वुड बी इंक्लूड 5 ईयर एंड 10 ईयर बॉन्ड्स, गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स 5 साल के या 10 साल के, विथ 4,000 crore ईच फॉर बोथ ऑक्शन। 5% ऑफ द बॉन्ड्स वुड बी रिजर्व फॉर रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स, बाकी सब में बड़े प्लेयर्स कैन कम एंड इन्वेस्ट इन। sovereign government bond will be designated as specific security under the fully accessible route, which will be accessible to non-residents as well. Over time, SGRB would provide a pricing reference for private sector entities in India for their domestic borrowing. तो जैसे गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स, गवर्नमेंट को पैसे देने में सबसे कम रिस्क होता है, तो when government will start borrowing money in through green bonds, it will also give a reference to private sector कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर किस रेट पे किस पैसे ले सकता है मार्केट से इंडिया में to for green purposes and all, and it will in a way mature India's capital market or bond market we can say. Okay, now इसके लिए regulatory frameworks हैं, जैसे RBI and SEBI are the two regulatory bodies which over the years have taken certain decisions to simplify green bond system in India. उसमें जैसे नवंबर 2021 में RBI published statement of commitment to support greening India's financial system. इंडिया के फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम को ग्रीन करना मीन्स इंडिया का इंडिया बैंकिंग सेक्टर should be able to provide more funds to green sectors. And for that, in 2007 only RBI had advised banks to put in place an appropriate action plan for making a meaningful contribution to sustainable development. Way back in 2007, what had RBI told banks? Bhai, set up a mechanism so that you are able to fund India's sustainable development. Then over the years it has taken certain steps. For example, RBI has incentivized bank lending towards greener industries through renewable energy projects have been put in priority sector lending. So renewable energy projects को जब loan दे रही है bank, it is funding green things and it will also help them in fulfilling their priority sector lending guidelines. Are we getting it? But bonds है तो capital market से भी रेगुलेट करेगा। ये तो बैंक्स को बोल रहे हैं कि आप कहाँ पैसे लगाओ कैसे लगाओ, आरबीआई वाज डूइंग दैट, बट कैपिटल मार्केट का प्राइमरी रेगुलेटर कौन है इंडिया में? सेबी। लेट्स कम टू सेबी रेगुलेशन रिलेटेड टू ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स। अच्छा, कल आपका टेस्ट के बाद क्लास है ना? ऐसा नहीं टेस्ट के बाद भाग लेना है, और टेस्ट में जो नहीं आया वो आना भी मत क्लास में आगे से। हाँ 2 to 4, आप 4:30 तक लिखो आराम से, डोंट वरी। एंड मोबाइल फोन किसी को यूज करते देख लिया मैंने उस 2 घंटे में, तो मैं मोबाइल फोन रख लूंगा, मेरा खराब भी हो रहा है। सबके रख लूंगा। अरे फिर मैं ऐसे गिफ्ट दिया करूंगा, जो टॉप करेगा एक सेकेंड हैंड मोबाइल गिफ्ट। क्या बोल रहे हैं? तुमने अभी से चीटिंग का प्लान कर लिया ना? He was to, it's warm water. Securities and Exchange Board of India. Securities and Exchange Board of SEBI. तो SEBI कैपिटल मार्केट का रेगुलेटर है। Over the years, it has come up with Shanti. Over the years, it has come up with various regulations to allow green bonds to be issued. जैसे अब कोई green bond issue कर रहा है, so that money should only be used for green purposes and all. तो regulations provide for those terms and conditions. For example, सेबी ने जो ग्रीन डेट सिक्योरिटीज इशू करने का रेगुलेशन जो पहली बार लेके आए थे, रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क विच इट हैड ब्रॉट इन सेबी इशू एंड लिस्टिंग ऑफ डेट सिक्योरिटी रेगुलेशन 2008 बाय अमेंडिंग दिस इन 2017. तो देखिए, SEBI introduced the regulatory framework for issuance of green debt securities as a mode of sustainable finance under the erstwhile SEBI issue and listing of debt security regulation 2008. तो this was the regulation. इसको हमने चेंज करके 2017 में we brought green bonds related mechanism. But now it has been replaced by this regulation, SEBI issue and listing of non-convertible securities. SEBI issue and listing of non-convertible securities, also called non-convertible security regulation. Non-convertible security regulation, इसको हाईलाइट करिए. तो नाउ non-convertible security regulation है, it has incorporated definition of green debt security as 21Q in this regulation. तो 21Q याद नहीं रखना है, but जो here we had done something no about green bonds that has been included now in NCS regulation or SEBI issue and listing of non-convertible security regulation. NCS regulation और non-convertible security regulation recently news में था, किसके बारे में है? तो ये SEBI का regulation है, इसके बारे में. This is understood by all of us? Okay. Then in November 2022, SEBI has allowed an issuer under the SEBI issue and listing of municipal debt security. Please note, वहां पे क्या था? Issue and listing of non-convertible security. Non-convertible security, that security cannot be converted into shares and all. तो उसमें green bonds को भी उन्होंने define किया था. Now they have SEBI issue and listing of municipal debt security regulation 2015. 2015 का regulation है कि how municipality can issue debt, can issue bonds. In 2022, it was amended to allow it to issue a green debt security if it falls within the definition of green debt security as per regulation 21Q of NCS regulation. So please understand, originally we have NCS regulation which has defined what green bonds would be, what green debt would be. In 2022, SEBI amended ILMDS regulation 2015 to allow. SEBI amended this 2015 regulation, which is about municipalities loan making or security issuing mechanism, bond issuing mechanism. It has said that in this amendment, it has said that municipalities can issue green debt security if it falls within the definition of green debt as per NCS regulation. If जो NCS regulation की definition में आपका debt fall हो रहा है, then at that time municipality can issue this thing. Such an issuer must comply with both ILMDS regulation and NCS regulation, क्योंकि green bond वाले regulations भी होंगे and ILMDS regulation, like how municipalities can, how listing of municipal debt securities can happen, those regulations should also be fulfilled. Then so these were the regulatory changes which have happened SEBI के front से recently. Now you may be finding it a bit difficult, but आप एक दो बार read करोगे, you'll understand कि we just have to remember two names, non convertible security वाला regulation and ILMDS वाला regulation. हाँ, उसमें नहीं जाना, unnecessary complicate, UPSC भी नहीं जाएगा उसमें, है ना. ये नाम ही याद रखो ना काफी, तो it's enough. You will know कि how debt security, how green debt securities are being regulated in the country. Now, in the back of increasing interest in sustainable financing in India as well as around the globe, and with a view to align the extant framework for green debt security with the updated green bond principle recognized by International Organization of Securities Commission, SEBI undertook a review of the regulatory framework for green debt security. Based on the review, it has been decided to in the SEBI meeting to do the following. Basically, here what SEBI is trying to say, SEBI is saying कि because interest rates are going up, internationally interest rates are going up, inflation की वजह से, तो borrowing money from market has become expensive, है ना. So borrowing money for even green bonds and all has become, through green bonds and all, has become expensive. So SEBI has taken these steps. It has enhanced the scope of definition of green debt security by including new modes of sustainable finance in relation to pollution prevention and control, eco-efficient products, etc. All these things have also been brought under the definition of green financing. Introduced the concept of blue bonds. SEBI has also introduced the concept of blue bonds. Blue bonds are related to water management and marine sector. Yellow bonds related to solar energy, and transition bonds as subcategories of green debt securities. तो देखो अब green debt securities. Now understand this. Green debt is generally cheaper. Green debt is generally cheaper than other debt. Green bonds are cheaper than other bonds because थोड़ा वहां से पे ना कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी प्रिंसिपल्स ये सब भी आते हैं कि हमारा इनकम थोड़ा कम भी होगा फिर भी वी विल इन्वेस्ट इन ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स बिकॉज इट इज गुड फॉर द इकोनॉमी सस्टेनेबिलिटी, है ना. तो नाउ ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स की डेफिनेशन को वाइडन किया गया टू इंक्लूड मोर एस्पेक्ट्स इनटू इट so that more money could be mobilized for green energy sector. Okay, so this was the climate and environment wala chapter. Again, here also in the end I have written कि we will cover some of this chapter in our regular environment classes जहाँ पे pollution वगैरह related there were a few more topics, 3-4 pages, but I found कि almost all of it I have already covered in environment classes, so why unnecessarily repeat it here and then. अब जैसे regulation और ये सब चीजें हम एनवायरमेंट क्लास में कवर नहीं करते, इट्स मोर ऑफ एन इकोनॉमी थिंग एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई हैव कवर्ड इट हियर. रेस्ट वी विल डू इट इन द एनवायरमेंट क्लास. ओके, तो टुमारो सुनो शांति. स्कूल में ना घंटी बजती है सब शोर मचाने लगता है, वैसे बिहेव करते हो आप लोग. अभी घंटी बजी भी नहीं है, वेट, नींद आ रही है. ये तो इतनी जोर से चिल्लाती है तेरे हॉस्टल में सबको ही सुन रहा होगा. तो गुंडी तो है एक. हाँ, हम क्या बोल रहे थे, कर लो तुम बात, कर लो खत्म कर लो. कल टेस्ट है 2 PM पे वी विल स्टार्ट, 4:30 तक कर लेना कंप्लीट ताकि ब्रेक लेके 5 PM से वी विल स्टार्ट आवर क्लासेस, है ना. प्लीज सब लोग अटेम्प्ट करिए. अगर आप करोगे ना अच्छे से अटेम्प्ट तो फ्यूचर वाले टेस्ट भी मैं खुद रिव्यू करूंगा. जैसे अभी से आई एम गोइंग टू सिट विद द टेस्ट पेपर मेकर्स टू go through each and every question. I'll ensure that each and every question is good in the paper. I've asked them कि not to make it unnecessarily difficult. क्या होता है ना, टेस्ट बनाने वाले in order to show that we can make very they ask unnecessarily difficult question which does not help you in UPSC exam. So we would ensure that every question is such that which will be of UPSC level. So there would be some easy questions also, थोड़े बहुत डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस भी होंगे, बट मोस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस वुड बी ऑफ मीडियम डिफिकल्टी लेवल, इंश्योरिंग कि आप सब सीख पाओगे उससे कुछ. ठीक है, तो बेसिक्स ऑफ इकोनॉमी एंड इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया का चैप्टर यहां तक का, क्लाइमेट चेंज तक का जितना आज पढ़ा है उसका टुमारो प्लीज अटेम्प्ट द टेस्ट, है ना. मैं पर्सनली जाके नहीं देखूंगा किसने कितने मार्क्स स्कोर किए, बट इन केस लाइक आफ्टर टुमारोज क्लास इफ यू विल हैव डाउट इन सम क्वेश्चन वी विल डिस्कस डाउट्स ऑल्सो. ओके, एंड टुमारो विल हैव एग्रीकल्चर वाला चैप्टर. लेट मी सी, पहले ना मैं बहुत मोटिवेटेड इन द सेंस कि आई विल बी एबल टू फिनिश अ लॉट ऑफ चैप्टर इन वन डे एंड देयरफॉर आई यूज्ड टू कमिट कि सब खत्म कर देंगे, बट 2 days बैक आई रियलाइज कि नोट्स बनाना इज नॉट दैट इजी. मतलब इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया से ना एक्सट्रैक्ट करना कि कौन सी रिलेवेंट चीजें हैं, कौन सी रिलेवेंट चीजें नहीं है, उसे समझना इट्स टेकिंग सम टाइम. तो टुमारो विल डू 1 चैप्टर डेफिनेटली एग्रीकल्चर वाला, बट आई विल ट्राई टू, वही ट्राई बोल रहा हूँ, आई विल ट्राई टू डू द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर ऑल्सो. तो चैप्टर 8 और चैप्टर 9 करने की कोशिश करते हैं, बट उसके लिए मेरे को अब ये आपका क्वेश्चन पेपर कितना बन गया है उन सारी चीज़ों को भी थोड़ा सा देखना है. तो प्लीज अटेम्प्ट द पेपर. इफ यू विल कीप डूइंग इट, मैं इंश्योर करूंगा कि हर वीक यू आर राइटिंग 1 टेस्ट विच इज इन सिंक विद योर प्रिपरेशन. जैसे साइंस आपके सिंक में रहेगा, उसके बाद मैं क्या, अगर आई विल गेट सब्सटैंशियल नंबर ऑफ अटेम्प्ट्स बोथ ऑनलाइन एंड ऑफलाइन, आई विल मॉडिफाई द टेस्ट सीरीज वाला प्लान जो हमने कर रखा है टू ब्रिंग इन इट इन एग्जैक्टली इन सिंक विद योर प्रिपरेशन. अभी हमने इकोनॉमी पढ़ा है तो इकोनॉमी का फुल टेस्ट ले रहे हैं, फिर साइंस का फुल टेस्ट लेंगे, फिर ना साइंस और इकोनॉमी का एक कंबाइंड टेस्ट ले लेंगे, बिकॉज बाय दैट टाइम योर एंटायर साइंस इकोनॉमी वुड बी डन. देन विल जंप ऑन टू इकोनॉमी एंड ज्योग्राफी, सॉरी एनवायरमेंट एंड ज्योग्राफी, बिकॉज एनवायरमेंट हम क्लास में पढ़ रहे होंगे, ज्योग्राफी रिलेटेड होगा. तो आई विल मेक श्योर दैट ईच एंड एवरी टेस्ट इज इन सिंक विद योर प्रिपरेशन, बट ओनली इफ यू अटेम्प्ट द टेस्ट. तो प्लीज आके अटेम्प्ट करिएगा. ओके कल जब आप आएंगे तो आपको रोल नंबर भी मिल जाएगा, सबको रोल नंबर मिल जाएगा, आपको प्रॉपर OMR शीट में रोल नंबर फिल करने होंगे और टेक इट एज प्रोफेशनली एज यू वुड हैव टेकन योर यूपीएससी प्रिलिमिनरी एग्जामिनेशन, है ना। तो आज रात में नींद थोड़ी कम आए, ऐसा होता है ना, कल टेस्ट है तो सुबह अपने आप से जल्दी से टाइम पे नींद खुल जाए, ऐसा होने दो, अच्छे से रिवाइज करके आओ, अच्छे से पढ़ो, विल अटेम्प्ट द टेस्ट। थैंक यू। एक मिनट, मेरे को ऑनलाइन वाले बच्चों के डाउट्स ले लेने दीजिए। सर व्हाट इज इंटरेस्ट रेट? अरे यार बॉन्ड, जब बॉन्ड से पैसे लोगे तो इंटरेस्ट जो होगा ना वो इंटरेस्ट रेट है जिस रेट पे आप लोगे। हाउ मेनी क्वेश्चन? 100 क्वेश्चन, इट्स अ फुल टेस्ट। इज दिस टेस्ट एक्सेसिबल टू करंट अफेयर्स टारगेट बैच? यस, टुमारो टारगेट प्रीलिम्स का भी ये टेस्ट होगा। व्हाट अबाउट ऑनलाइनर्स? ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स कैन अटेम्प्ट द टेस्ट ऑनलाइन ना, 2 बजे उनके पोर्टल पे लाइव हो जाएगा टेस्ट, 2 बजे ऑन देयर पोर्टल टेस्ट वुड बी लाइव, फाइन। Can online student attempt the test offline? नहीं, online student won't be able to attempt the test offline, only offline students would be able to attempt the test offline, उनका रोल नंबर इशू नहीं होगा यहाँ पे। चलिए, थैंक यू वेरी मच।